Sometimes the southern Illinois sunset spills a golden light across the quiet, familiar pavement of the Marion Town Square Plaza, pulling long shadows that seem to stretch back into the distant past. Every brick, curb, and weathered street corner stands as a silent sentinel to Marion's past and the generations who walked here before. And at the center of it all, we find the town square, a quintessential Midwestern center of town in every sense. Like a good tapestry, Marion began as a 20-acre plot of land around this town square, and 200 years have been woven out from there, capturing echoes along the way of all that came before. This episode is a humble attempt to capture a small fraction of that history. This is one of the many stories of Marion, Illinois. The story of the square began in August of 1839, shortly after Williamson County was formed. County commissioners were first tasked with establishing a centrally located county seat. The commissioners chose a 20-acre plot of high grassy ground known as Poor Prairie, which was then the farm owned by William and Bethany Benson. At the time the square was platted, a small crop of wheat and corn were growing on the site. William Benson chose the high spot as their homestead due to the natural springs that dotted the prairie. Those springs still exist today under the modern infrastructure and architecture that make up today's square. Incorporated as the county seat of Williamson County, Illinois, on October 7, 1839, the very first county court met in the Benson family log cabin, which was located just west of the newly designated town square, approximately where we find the Williamson County Museum standing today. It was reported at that time that the crowds were so large at that first county gathering that some attendees were reported to have used pumpkins and logs as makeshift seating. During that October 7th meeting, the 20 acres donated by William and Bethany Benson were formally accepted as the location of the new county seat known as Marion. 1 month later, on November 17, 1839, and every one of the 38 newly surveyed lots adjoining Marion's new public square were sold over a 3-day period. The sale would generate the newly formed town just shy of $2,500, or $105,000 when adjusted for inflation, giving the county seat of Marion its first funds of working capital. Quickly becoming a regional epicenter of commerce, governmental affairs, and culture, the purpose and use of this 20-acre plot of Little Egypt land has evolved over time. In its earliest days, long before being paved, the center of the public square was nothing more than a patch of dirt and grass which operated as an unorganized open livestock pen and tethering ground for horses, complete with semi-enclosed sections which were surrounded in a low metal fence. As the town began to develop, stray animals and livestock presented an active nuisance to city beautification. The city council eventually passed ordinances prohibiting livestock on the square, becoming some of the first city ordinances. Other ordinances went on to prohibit hog owners from allowing their animals to wallow in water-filled depressions on the square or anywhere in city streets. Still an enforceable ordinance to this day. In 1842, it would be Allen Bainbridge who would build the Western Exchange Hotel on the north side of the square. Recognized as the town's first official hotel, the two-story structure, referred to locally as the Exchange, was the first all-brick building in the area. A monumental addition to the young frontier town, the Exchange, with its hotel, dry goods store, and other amenities of the day, came to be a symbol of the town's growth into a bustling regional center. Throughout history, the square has been the natural gathering point for politics. A defining moment came on a hot and humid August day in 1861 when General John A. Logan delivered a fiery, historic speech while standing in the back of his wagon parked on the square. It is reported that Logan's impassioned plea for patriotism that day turned the tide on Southern Illinois sentiments toward secession. His rallying cry convinced skeptical Southern Illinoisans to stay aligned with the Union, permanently altering the region's legacy. During the mid to late 19th century, Marion developed primarily as a classic agrarian economy. Long before coal became the undisputed king of Southern Illinois, the region's climate and soil proved to be uniquely ideal for a different lucrative cash crop: tobacco. And for close to 5 decades, Marion Square was the literal epicenter of this booming Southern Illinois industry. At the peak of the Southern Illinois tobacco era, as many as 7 massive tobacco curing barns operated in and around the town of Marion. Local historians noted that residents of the era frequently referred to the pungent, heavy aroma that continuously drifted across town from the curing process as the smell of airing out the money. In the years following the Civil War, the square served as a dusty yet vibrant civic and commercial center. Surrounded by hitching posts and wood-framed storefronts, the square was a landscape of lingering frontier-era architecture, along with the occasional periods of frontier lawlessness that came with it. Such was the case on May 17, 1875, when a fatal shootout occurred on the south side of the Marion Square between James B. Moray and Sheriff Leander Farrell. The two men had been locked in a months-long dispute over tax collections, and that feud came to a fatal conclusion on a warm spring day. It was around noon that Monday as Mr. Moray and his son were exiting the Williamson County Courthouse. Moments later, as Mr. Moray approached Deputy Farrell, the two exchanged gunfire. In the hail of bullets, Moray was fatally wounded, staggering to the end of the sidewalk and later carried to the nearby Goodall Hotel, where the would-be assassin would succumb to his wounds. It was during the post-Civil War years that the square underwent its first major transformation. From the ashes of the devastating 1875 inferno that claimed the Williamson County Courthouse, along with a large swath of town, the residents of Marion forged a new identity, replacing tinderbox hastily built wood-framed storefronts with structures of robust brick and masonry. Slowly, the square was transformed into a resilient plaza of early Victorian architecture. In just a few short years, new 2- and 3-story commercial blocks lined the perimeter of the square and beyond. Stately masonry facades, arched windows, and robust parapets replaced the wooden structures of Marion's frontier era. In 1872, after decades of isolation, the Carbondale and Shawneetown Railroad would lay its final track into Marion. This vital connection would be the catalyst that would transform the predominantly agrarian town of Marion into a regional hub as steam locomotives opened access to vast, previously untapped southern Illinois coal seams. The railroad provided the cheap, efficient transportation required to ship the black gold across the Midwest. The logistical leap of railroad access quickly transformed the local landscape from quiet farmland into a bustling network of mines and booming industrial settlements. The rapid economic boom that ushered in the 1880s demanded a central anchor, and the community found it in the Marion Town Square. Armed with new coal wealth, local leaders and merchants began transforming the square from a simple village crossroads into a bustling commercial center. All through the 1880s and 1890s, stately brick buildings continued to replace wood-framed storefronts. Banks such as the Exchange Bank in the 1880s era Denison building were constructed to manage the new coal mining fortunes, alongside dry goods stores like the New York store, one of many that would feed and clothe a growing population. Meanwhile, the opulent Dunaway Opera House, located on the square's west side, would serve as the area's premier entertainment venue in an era when entertainment was considered a luxury. In 1889, it would be the towering statement of civic pride rising from the center of the square that would capture everyone's attention. The new courthouse, with its ornate neoclassical design, would bring an unprecedented sense of opulence to the town. Architect Charles E. Brush of Carbondale, Illinois, did not settle for ordinary. The architect and builders sculpted a masterpiece of brick, stone, and intricate artistry that immediately dominated the skyline of this town in Little Egypt. Thanks in large part to the exploitation of southern Illinois coal, Marion at the turn of the 20th century was a place caught between the rustic charm of yesterday while being forced into the roaring energy age of tomorrow. First chartered in 1891, the Marion Street Light and Street Railway Company was the first to bring electricity to the square. By 1900, the power plant on North Madison Street was powering arc lamps and countless other bulbs that brought a brilliant incandescent glow to the heart of the town. And along with that glow came the Coal Belt Electric Railway. The pride of Williamson County, the interurban as it was called locally, looped through the heart of the square, and for many years the trolley connected Marion to neighboring mining towns like never before. Shoppers, miners, and visitors were deposited directly to the square, contributing to Marion's continued turn-of-the-century growth. For the first 65 years of existence, the square was a battleground against the elements. In the dry summer months, passing horses and wagons kicked up blinding clouds of dust. But when autumn rains or winter snows arrived, the square quickly melted into a thick, treacherous sea of black mud, swallowing wagon wheels and testing the patience of every merchant and resident in town. That would all change in the spring of 1907, when Mayor J.C. Mitchell and the Board of Aldermen voted in favor of an ambitious plan of paving the entire square with practically indestructible vitrified bricks. The local contracting firm of Hoffman and Townsend would win the monumental bid. Starting at the intersection with North Market Street, they graded the earth, laying down cushions of sand before carefully setting the heavy, dark red blocks into place. In no time at all, the old dirt roads disappeared under a beautiful crimson lattice of brick. These were not just cosmetic upgrades. These were incremental changes to the daily life of Marion residents. For the first time, wheels of all kinds rolled smoothly across the square, while pedestrians could now traverse the entire square without ruining their boots. The new brick-paved square even gave the fire department a new chore. The annual hosing off of the square each spring brought a sense of renewal to the citizens of Marion. On a crisp spring morning in 1907, there was a palpable sense of excitement on the square. Merchants stepped out of their shops, and tobacco-chewing locals hanging out around the courthouse paused, with all eyes craned upward as laborers and specialized craftsmen worked in unison to install the new clock on the cupola of the Williamson County Courthouse. Not part of Brush's original design, the clock was added by the Williamson County Board, and as the pendulum swung for the first time, the town transitioned from a quiet county seat into a synchronized modern community, forever anchored by the towering landmark at the center of town. As the 20th century rolled on, that ever-present rhythmic clatter coming from blacksmith shops slowly gave way to the growing number of internal combustion engines rolling through the square. For the crowds that gathered on the square to see that first strange machine called the automobile saw it as just a novelty. But it was the physical arrival of the future on the poor prairie. a future that would be dominated by that thing called the automobile. In 1913, the demolition of the 1860s-era three-story Bainbridge block made room for the construction of the new Marion State and Savings Bank Tower. Constructed at a staggering cost of $125,000, or $4 million in today's cost, this five-story structure immediately became the tallest building in Little Egypt when it opened its doors in 1914. It wasn't just its height that caught the eye. It was its brilliant facade made of glazed brick and terracotta. The architecture of the new bank featured grand stacked tile columns reminiscent of ancient Greek structures, bringing an air of classical majesty to Little Egypt. The bank's interior boasted immaculate marble details, state-of-the-art vaults, and public art around every corner. The upper floors quickly became the most coveted real estate in town, filled with the offices of doctors, lawyers, and energy executives. Today, the former Marion State and Savings Bank Tower continues to stand as a monument to Marion's soaring financial ambition at the start of the 20th century. Throughout the 1920s, the square served as a frantic heart of a rapidly transforming region. The whole county was caught in a dizzying tug-of-war between the booming modern consumerism and the dark, volatile undercurrents of the era's labor wars and social-political upheaval. The decade kicked off with a burst of pure modern spectacle with the opening of the Orpheum Theater on January 2nd, 1922. Yet, a few months later, the escapism of the silver screen of the Orpheum Vaudeville Theater was shattered by the grim reality just across the square in the Williamson County Courthouse. Following the brutal Union dispute at the Lester Strip Mine northwest of Marion, the Williamson County Courthouse became a national focal point. As anxious crowds flooded the square, pushing against the courthouse walls as the sensational Heron Massacre trials unfolded. Chaotic days with plenty of detailed testimony, but the trial led to a stunned courtroom as the trials concluded with 0 convictions. By 1927, the heavy shadow of the Heron Massacre trials had given way to a new kind of excitement as the industrial growth fueled a shopping boom in Marion. In March of that year, the opening of the F.W. Woolworth Company store on the west side of the square brought a vibrant sense of celebration to the downtown area. For a moment, the violence of the decade faded into the background, replaced by the simple joy of a visit to the Woolworth bargain counter in a town squarely stepping into the modern age. The chaos and economic boom of the 1920s would come to a screeching halt on December 1st, 1930, as the financial shockwave of the Great Depression would hit the heart of Marion. The First National Bank would be the last of 3 banks on the square forced to close their doors permanently. As the financial pillars of the community crumbled, many feared that Marion would turn into a ghost town. But residents, civic groups, and merchants left on the square held on through sheer grit and inventive neighborhood resilience. When the fall of 1939 rolled around, the year bookended an exceptionally challenging decade with the town's centennial celebration. The historic event kicked off in late August as Parade Marshal J. Milton Norman officially led the parade from the depot on North Market Street around the town square, where the spectacle of themed floats, covered wagons, and other automobiles made their way to the Williamson County Fairgrounds via East Main Street. Wanting to join the celebration, thousands of spectators packed the city and parade route, completely halting regular commerce. Planned to coincide with the Williamson County Fair, the celebration left the community with a deeply revitalized pride in its 100-year heritage. This is Sean Vincelette, and this has been one of the many stories of Marion, Illinois.